I'm Vicki Hogarth and welcome to Southwest Magazine. I'm joined today by Joan Majchrowski from the Charlotte County Multicultural Association. Thank you so much for being here today, Joan.
Thank you for having me.
I want to talk a lot about what you do as an organization, but first can we talk about the Ukrainian refugees who've come to Charlotte County? There's quite a large number at this point in time, so how many families are here and how have you worked with them?
So at this moment, there's approximately 14 families in Charlotte County that have come on the new program. So the new program is CHCO-TV, which allows immigration to happen for people of Ukrainian orientation. They get an open work permit, which allows them to work across Canada. Currently, the Ukrainians that have come have either come previously and have family reunification, which is a key element in bringing them over, or they have a job, language ability, and the ability to go to work straight away. So one thing that we do have to clarify is that they're not refugees, not according to government standards. They are capable of working and they do want to work. So they want to become a part of the community. They want to put their voice out there. And there's a lot of different Ukrainian communities around the area as well. So currently they've settled a little bit in Grand Manan. There's a couple of families down there. We have a couple of families in St. Stephen, and then we have a couple of families in the St. George area as well. And whether or not they stay will be up to them, their jobs, and any resources that are available to them.
Now, I know the Multicultural Association was a part of an orientation day that you had to put together quite last minute when you found out there were these families coming. Can you tell me a little bit about that day and what you put together?
So that was such an interesting day because the New Brunswick government actually put together a charter specifically for people coming to New Brunswick. So there were approximately 170 people on that charter, and then they were distributed to Moncton, Fredericton, St. John, and of course our area here. They were such amazing people coming in. They came in, they were greeted at the airport. They went directly to their homes that night, and then they had registrations, SIN numbers, and everything they need for employment the next day. We are incredibly lucky because we have a project assistant who is also Ukrainian. So the day previous to us having that orientation, which was done with the town of St. George, so we actually had the St. George councillors and the deputy mayor approach us, giving us space of the Macadavic place. And it was quite serendipitous because that Monday, they came the Tuesday, that Monday we had actually received a donation it was yoga services done for Fitness 360, specifically for the Ukraine event. And then on top of that, Pete's Dairy Bar also provided ice cream for the event as well. So it really was community driven. But our project assistant, she translated our information session packet into Ukrainian for that day. So it's a key element in bringing newcomers over so that they are prepared for life in Canada. Specifically at this point, weather. Weather is very different in Canada, and having people prepared for that is key. Having people prepared on what to expect in their first days, what documentation that they need, what resources Charlotte County as a whole has, because anybody who lives in this area knows that there are snippets in each of our communities. So people coming to this area knowing, oh, okay, I can go to swim in St. Stephen. If I want to visit aquariums, then I come to St. Andrews. If I need to go to an Asian store, well, you can go to St. George. So each community has a pocket of which they have such enormous resources that newcomers need to know about. And that was the main goal, was to welcome them and to give them the information that they needed in order to settle, at least for the short term, within our community.
So you have those short-term orientation goals, but also long-term, and this isn't just obviously for Ukrainian families, but any newcomer family, there's English lessons that can be done. St. George and St. Stephen are the two locations, but can you tell me a little bit about what's offered?
So with English language specifically, we actually do St. George, St. Andrews, and St. Stephen. So our teachers are mobile as well. So we do a combination of formal language classes, informal language classes, testing classes. And I should mention too that all of our services are free for newcomers. We are fully funded by the federal government for IRCC, so Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship Canada, and also ONB, the provincial part of Opportunities New Brunswick. So we are fully funded by both governments. We don't ask anything from our clients in return. We don't ask anything from employers in return. But we do work with the clients as they need by themselves. So some people will come in for resume writing. Some people will come in for, how do I order something in a grocery store? How do I order something online? How do I fill out a form? How do I budget in Canada? So that's more of the living day-to-day. We also have people who need to get their immigration. So depending on how they come into our area will be what services we do provide language-wise. And then we also have volunteers who do informal language. So they might play a game and have language at the same time. And then we have workshops. So some workshops that we have are, how to read the gist in a book. For example, just a tiny one. You open a book in a library. How do you know if you want to take it home, whether it's worth taking home? Of course, they're all worth taking home. If you have a cooking class. So one of the cooking classes we had in the past, and it was voiced by a newcomer, is there's so many apples. Why are there so many apples in Canada? So then the next cooking class was doing apple crisp and then bringing in a sample of each of the apples so that they could taste it, and then have the knowledge going to the grocery store of this is what this apple tastes like, this is what this apple is used for. Because we take for granted that the fruits and vegetables that we have are the same fruits and vegetables that they have in their home countries. So it's a lot of different kind of language, and it really does focus on the client themselves and what they want. So for language in St. George, we do it at our main office at 19 Main Street. For language in St. Stephen, it's in our community office at 123 Milltown. And then in St. Andrews, we actually have a partnership with the Ross Memorial Library. So they allow us to do our language classes in their downstairs room there.
Well, and those are for all ages, obviously.
Currently, they're for adults. So our adults mainly. What we have for kids, we actually have a homework club. We do have to be careful with kids because normally we would want the parents in the same room just for liability issues, or more than one child at the same time. So our youth engagement worker actually does work with kids 9 to 18, and she has a lot of different programs going on as well.
Summer programs in particular for youth. Can you speak a little bit about that and how it involves newcomer youth to the community and also introduces them to everything from outdoor activities to clubs in the region?
Yes, so our youth engagement worker has been extremely busy. She's working with some sports and recreation groups right now, so that'll be announced shortly. She's working with mental health at this moment, and they're creating a passport to wellness, which is really exciting, and she'll have more information about that shortly, so follow our Facebook page. We've done hiking groups with the children, so they get to see the safety issues. We always have kits that we give kids. We also have a youth leadership program that's starting, and that's actually open to youth and to some community members as well. The goal is to have about half an hour to an hour inside to teach a little bit and then do community involvement. So volunteering in different centers, having a day where they're going to, clear up the litter in the area, beautify the area a little bit, and what it means to be a leader within the community. I'm sure she has more. She's been incredibly busy. That's all I can remember at this time, though.
I did notice on your website there was a squash soup making day from, I think, back in the fall too.
Yes.
So, but does it go the other way as well, where you might have instances where people that move here show off their culture to this community and introduces Charlotte County people that may have grown up here to different cultures as well?
Absolutely. So first, we had a couple pop-up restaurants. So we had a pop-up Chinese restaurant in St. Stephen that happened. And then we had a pop-up Ukrainian restaurant in St. George that happened prior to the war. And then the war happened nearly at the same time, so we turned it into a fundraiser for the Ukrainians then. What we used to have, and which will come back, is community dinners. So the community dinners we generally do in the larger areas as well, so St. George, St. Andrews, St. Stephen, and we always have our community members, our clients, cook food and introduce the food to the community. So we, at this point, have had Filipino food, Korean food, Ugandan food, Jamaican food, Ukrainian food, Romanian food, and I'm probably missing Mexican food, and I'm probably missing some others as well. Generally speaking, when those events come out, they are sold out within a couple of days. So that's when, again, you want to take a look at our Facebook post to see when we're going to start.
Okay, so Facebook
tickets.
would be I know that kind of thing goes fast around here.
Yes, yes. Generally speaking, when we put something on Facebook, the community will share it, and then it gets a lot of uptake and tickets. We usually only have about 50 tickets available for the community dinners, and they go extremely quickly.
You touched on fundraisers, and I know you were one of the first people we reached out to here with the war in Ukraine. When you're thinking of fundraisers, you don't always know where exactly to give to. When you do fundraisers for, let's speak specifically about war in Ukraine right now, what are you fundraising for? Where do you send it? Do you use some of it locally, or does it go to, say, for example, I know the Red Cross was a big one for a lot of people.
Yes. So depends on who is helping organize the fundraiser. So with the St. George fundraiser that we had, we told the community that was going to go to Red Cross, and that's exactly where it went to. So there was over $7,000 that was raised for that and went for that. For the St. Stephen Ukrainian fundraiser that we had, that was going directly to the Ukrainians that were going to come into the area. So they were creating welcome packages, and they were going to use it as a need-by-need basis. And then we also do have another Ukrainian fundraising event happening on July 23rd. That'll be at the Family Fun Days as a part of the St. George Festival. And that will again go to the Ukrainians in the area and with any special needs that they need. So an example would be the $400 that we received from Fitness 360. We actually got Amazon gift cards for that one, which was new for us. We don't usually focus on Amazon, but it turns out that they needed adapters, and the only place they could find adapters was on Amazon. So that actually ended up being the perfect thing for us to give in our welcome package for them there.
Wow. Now, you mentioned that you've got a great team, but also that the Multicultural Association works with a lot of volunteers as well. So if somebody wanted to get involved, what are some of the things you need volunteers for?
We actually have a lot of things on the go. So we're currently revamping our volunteer program right now. So we're changing it into a kind of a tiered program. So based on what people want to volunteer for. So one tier is just helping set up for events. A second tier is anything that involves working with newcomers on a group basis. So it could be we have a cooking class and you want to participate in the cooking class and help with the newcomers, in which case that would be a second volunteering event. And then the third one is one-on-one. So some newcomers specifically ask, I would like to improve my language, but I don't want to do it in a group setting. And so we will match a client to a volunteer and do that one-on-one training. Come the fall, we'll be looking for volunteers specifically to help with homework club. So to help young newcomer children with their schoolwork and if they have any questions. Recently, there's been requests for help with French, especially because with the children, they are taking French immersion or they're taking French classes, and it's hard enough learning English, but also learning English and French at the same time can be a little bit daunting. We always have some, if a person comes in and goes, well, I want to just help you administratively. No problem at all. We do actually have NBCC practicum students have come into our office on a regular basis, and they've been helping us within the office setting as well. Now, the thing I should note with that as well is that there is a strenuous volunteer process. So we do need a criminal and vulnerable sector check. There is training for volunteers, cross-cultural training, and there's a confidentiality agreement and code of conduct and one that I'm missing, unfortunately. But we are dealing with a vulnerable population, so we do have to make sure that our population is safe as well.
Can you speak a little bit about retention issues with this area? What are the pros and cons in terms of people wanting to stay here that might be newcomers to the community? What ways as a community could we strengthen what we have to offer, and what do we have that keeps people here?
So our community keeps people here, and that is every single community that we have. Our community is absolutely amazing. The people in our community, the resources that we have, it is what keeps people here. We are rural, so there are their own individual challenges that come with being in a rural area. Anybody who lives completely rurally is going to have internet issues. So obviously during COVID, that was a huge issue. There's always going to be daycare issues, waiting lists. Anybody coming with young children and where one or both parents need to work, it's going to be challenging. Also having after school activities and recreation for the children, especially during the summertime, that's also going to be a challenge for people living here, and of course transportation. So transportation, there are different initiatives that are happening with transportation, which is fantastic. There are some issues though with transportation. Some of it are things in our control and some out of our control. Within our control are, the ability of buying a car. Insurance is higher for newcomers, so they have to prepare for that. And then actually being able to drive. So transferring a driver's license can also be a challenge for certain newcomers, especially if they don't have the language ability to do so. So, and then we'll deal with the obvious one is housing. So housing is always an issue. And I believe every single community is working on that issue as well. And that being said, we again have amazing people in our corner who help us and work with us to help our newcomers on that front.
And we can touch again on Ukraine for this example too, is with host families. If you're able to host, is that something that that your organization would work with? If someone said, I do have room in my house for someone, especially in a time of war when there might be a charter flight coming over, do you keep a list, or how would someone, if they felt they could house newcomers, do that?
So that is actually something that we're doing now. We are working with the New Brunswick Multicultural Council, who is helping us with, the forms that are needed. We have had some people reach out. We do, again, deal with a vulnerable population. So we will do a site visit. We will ask for a criminal record check, a criminal and vulnerable sector check, should they be in the same home, because again, it is safety of people coming into the area. And if we're helping to do it as a multicultural association, then we want to ensure that our newcomers are safe. And this would apply for the Ukrainians coming in. This would apply in September if NBCC students are coming in and the same offer were available. So we are always going to be careful with it. And we do have to make sure that all government regulations are followed.
Okay, and then in terms of transportation, obviously it's an issue for a lot of people in this area, but do you work with Charlotte Dial-A-Ride, or I'm thinking Eastern Charlotte Waterway's new project of electric cars? Has that been helpful in navigating that barrier?
Absolutely. We actually do the annual subscription with Dial-A-Ride, and then the newcomers will pay for the distance themselves, depending on where it is. I know Dial-A-Ride always needs volunteers, so just a little prompt for anybody who has the ability to help Dial-A-Ride, that's also appreciated. And then, yes, we are working with ECW on their pilot project as well. We have some meetings coming up shortly, I believe.
And finally, how long have you been involved with the Multicultural Association? I know you're sort of new to the area, but what drew you to this part of the world?
What drew me here was my sister and I came on vacation. So we came on vacation. We were doing Fredericton and Nova Scotia, PEI, and then she happened to live in the States at the time. So she was like, she drove by St. Andrews and stopped by, and then she told me about it afterwards. And so we came by in the winter and fell in love, and then it became my mission to move out here. So that was probably about 2-3 years process going forward. Of course, everything happened so serendipitously that I didn't realize of all the barriers that were here. So I found housing in October, which is nearly impossible to do in this area. But I found it, and so I just paid the deposit and went back home, put in my notice, and came back. That being said, they already knew that I was there temporarily. And then everything just kind of happened. And I started working at the Multicultural because I have ESL training myself. That was actually my career for about 20 years. And I noticed the job posting that they had, so I applied, and then I became the executive director in January 2020. So just in time for the pandemic.
Right.
And we've been going strong ever since. We've actually grown our team. So we started with about 5-6 employees, and now we have 8. And we've expanded our offices as well, thanks to our funders. And as always, thanks to our funders. They've given us the ability to do this. And thanks to the community as well, because we also have funding from Fundy Community Foundations. So, and they have been integral in, we have a welcome package for newcomers that come in. So it's, giving them some blankets and some things that they need. And we have the churches on our sides, and they're holding furniture for newcomers. And it allows them, because they come with nothing, they come with suitcases. You can't come with a table and chairs and a sofa. It's just, they won't fit on the plane. So our churches in the area are working with their congregations, and they're giving us free space to store things. And so our newcomers can actually go, quote unquote, shopping for essentials. So they're housing, we actually have a newcomer who came pregnant, and they're going to have some baby items. So all things that they need when they get here, but they won't necessarily be able to afford when they first come.
Wow. And you touched on COVID. What kind of an obstacle was that as an organization when you're already dealing with people who might feel isolated trying to navigate a new culture, sometimes an entirely new language, and then to throw something that really did isolate us all. How was that to do your job in that time, especially that you were coming into your job 2020?
Yes. So initially it was, the first thing was March 2020, we were put in red zone. So actually my first focus was keeping my staff employed. So how can we shift very, very quickly so that the staff are able to retain their employment rather than go on EI? Which my staff navigated and shifted extremely quickly. We were closed down for approximately a week, and then internally we were back up and running. The minute that the red period was over, we were back in the offices because our clients were stating, due to technology issues, due to internet issues, they couldn't do the virtual information that was available for them. So the moment that we could reopen the offices, we did. We did a lot of door-to-door, masks in hand, delivering things. Quarantine was, of course, a huge issue at the time. So we worked with the companies to make sure that the newcomers were taken care of. So during the 2-week period, we would deliver groceries once a week or twice a week, depending on the need. There was always, new rules, navigating new rules, shifting with the new rules. So, and that it was just adaptability, flexibility. And we had, again, the community on our side. The staff was flexible and adaptable and worked within the constraints. And of course, we got frustrated, as everybody did, but our board is amazing as well. So we have great support from our board, and we changed our certain aspects of our bylaws, certain aspects of our, internal policies to help the staff and to work better for the staff. And everything turned out to be even better. And the staff just came back with new ideas, better ideas, and just forged through. So none of our programming stopped. Mm-hmm. We were still able to help newcomers and to an extent employers with helping the newcomers that we could.
I know a lot of people are familiar with some of the fundraising nights you do, the markets you do, the multicultural markets and the food nights, but what are some of the things that I think that your average Charlotte County resident who might not spend a lot of time at the Multicultural Center doesn't know about the work you do?
So we are settlement. We are not an immigration agency. So we do not work with immigration. We work specifically with settlement. So what that means first and foremost is pre-arrival. So we will work, if employers need our assistance, we are more than willing to help employers. And we've done that with, certain streams that they might want to go into. We'll give them referrals. We help employers. You may have seen job postings on our website. So when an employer is able to give us that information, we will share it. And for that, that's public information. So that's community. They could apply. Newcomers could apply. For us, it's more about supporting our employers in the area. So one part of immigration may be with a labor shortage, you have to prove that you've posted for a job for a certain length of time, and we're more than willing to help with that aspect. We also work with settlement plans. So a settlement plan is what a newcomer needs prior to them coming. So do they need housing? Do they have a driver's license? Will they need Medicare? Will they need a SIN number? Do they have the capability of doing that themselves? Are they coming with their family? What ages are their children? What resources will their children need? What job does their spouse normally have? Can we get them into an existing job in Canada? Will the family be coming later? Will the family be coming now? Are they looking at having, family reunification? There's so many aspects of the settlement plan that both governments have addressed. And our biggest concern is having newcomers go into jobs that they're skilled at. So that is the government's priority, and we follow suit in that aspect. And so any barriers that newcomers will have, we have meetings with the government, and we will tell them the barriers that are in place. And that goes for people across the board. So we're talking about international students as well. Right. So we work with international students, permanent residents. We help with citizenship. So a lot of people don't know is that we have client computers in the office. So a lot of clients may have a tablet or a phone, but they don't actually have a computer. So we have office space specifically if a client needs to take their citizenship oath, for example, or their citizenship test. Then they can come in, and that's a very necessary service that they themselves will need. We also do information sessions. So some of the ones that we've had is how to bring your family over. And we usually do that with a government representative for that. Car maintenance, winterizing your home. There's anything to do with the life in Canada. So those are just a couple of them. And then we work one-on-one with clients as well. So a lot of times it's navigating those government forms. So what is a surname versus a last name versus a family name? And these are just little things that clients don't understand and they might need help with. And then of course we have printing and photocopying and scanning services, faxing services as well for newcomers as well.
Well, I've learned so much today, but I'd love to have you back regularly just so we can keep up to date with what you're working on. Thank you so much, Joan.
Thank you so much, Vicki.
My guest today has been Joan Majchrowski from the Charlotte County Multicultural Association. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Southwest Magazine.
Southwest Magazine is a news and public affairs production of CHCO Television.